is Mickey, and we're over here at the Villisca Axe Murder House.
Yep.
And she's going to give us a quick walkthrough, and then later on we'll have a video uploaded with our investigations and all that
Let's see what
jazz.
evidence we get.
Yeah,
Okay, so Villisca is a small town in Iowa.
let me flip.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Very small town in Iowa. It had the railroad going through it. Rural, kind of quiet. Everybody knows everyone. 1910, in June 10th of 1910, Miss Mary that lived next door noticed that the Josiah Moore family, she didn't see anybody stirring. Josiah was a successful John Deere and farm equipment salesman. He normally was up early and went to the office. So she got up about 4 and started doing some things inside, and then went outside around 5 and still didn't see any movement, and noticed that the horses and the animals were fussing as if they hadn't been fed. So she didn't think anything of it. She thought it was strange that he wasn't up, but she went ahead about her business. Then about 7:30, Mary's like, this is unusual. There's no movement. The kids aren't out. Sarah's not out. That's the wife. And so she decides to come over and knock on the door. Mary knocks on the door. There's no answer. So she thinks this is strange again. She goes home, and she calls the home of Josiah's brother Ross and asks him if they're away. Actually speaks to his wife and lets her know that nobody's stirring in the house. So Ross's wife called the pharmacy where Ross was manager. Ross came down to see what was going on. He comes and looks through the house, goes around, peeks in the windows. All the windows have curtains or are shuttered. He knocks on the doors and the windows, no response. So Ross has a bunch of keys. At that time they were skeleton keys. Gets the door open. Let's go this way. So you see Mary and Ross are here. Mary lives next door. So Ross finally, he can't get anybody to respond. He actually goes to the front door. It was locked, which is unusual at that time. And he finds one of his skeleton keys that'll turn the lock so he can get in. Comes into the house. Mary just came to the doorway. She never came all the way in the house. This is the parlor. So Ross walked into the house, and he immediately goes to this bedroom. He gets a few steps into the bedroom, and he notices the bodies, 2 small bodies, and blood everywhere. At that point, he knew that they had been murdered. He backed out, went and sat on the porch, and he said, "Mary, don't go in there, it's bad." At that point, Mary calls up to Josiah's workplace, and she asks the lead man to come down, take care of the animals. And then she contacts them and tells them contact the city marshal as they wait for them to arrive. So the city marshal came in. He was by himself, Horton, and he had to walk through the rest of the house by himself. Horton comes in. He sees in the bedroom, I'll show you where it's at. He sees in the bedroom, on the floor is a kerosene lamp with the wick turned up. And he sees against the wall an axe, a regular old axe with a long wooden handle, just like you would use to chop wood. He sees the girls both in the bed. I note this younger girl is against the wall, and she doesn't look like she woke at all. She was bludgeoned to death in the head. Everyone had coverings over their face of cloth or a piece of clothing or something. The mirrors in the whole house were covered. Every window was covered. This person had time to enjoy this. This was his fantasy world. Lena, the older daughter, was positioned strangely. She was sideways more, and it looked as though her arm was outstretched and she had been slid either up on the pillow, but there were slide marks in the blood to show that there was movement. Lena had some odd positioning. Lena had her gown, her nightgown was pulled up. There was a pair of bloody underwear under the bed. She had a bloody fingerprint in the inside of her knee. There was also, and this is graphic and I apologize, There was a slab of bacon wrapped with a dish towel on the floor. We'll learn the meaning of that later. So obviously there was some type of perversion here, but we don't know what. So let's show you the rest of the house. We don't know where the killer was. He had to have been in the house, and this is why we think he lay in wait, because they came home around 10 o'clock from a children's program and entered the house and were never seen again until their bodies were found. This is the stairway, and I don't know if you can look up that stairway, but it's not big. Not only is it not big, those rubber treads are for safety and were put on later. They wouldn't have been there. So walking up those wooden stairs would be very difficult not to wake someone up. So you can hear me as I go up these steps. Even if I try to sneak, they're going to freak. And I'm trying to be quiet. So we go up to the steps. At the top of the stairs is the parents' bedroom. In this bedroom, they found Josiah and Sarah Moore, his wife, bludgeoned to death. There was a bloody shoe laying on the bed that had been tipped over. They think the shoe was on the floor next to the bed, and as the blood from Sarah dripped onto the floor, it filled the shoe. There was also a kerosene lamp on the floor here, and the globe off of the kerosene lamp had been knocked underneath of the dresser. Just like everywhere else, there was actually, all the mirrors were covered, their faces were covered. You can still see axe marks in the wall, which is kind of hard to take. Okay. Then, the next murder victims were the 4 Moore children. We had the baby boy in the cot by himself. He was bludgeoned to death. Catherine in a bed by herself, also murdered, and her face was covered as well. And then the 2 other boys, the 2 older boys, were in this bed. Well, maybe not that actual bed, but on this wall, and they had been killed, faces covered, all mirrors covered. This is their closet here. We don't know where the killer was hiding. One of the big theories is that he must have been lying in wait. We have a closet here in the parents' bedroom, and if you walk through the closet, there's actually an attic in here. Many people believe that the killer was hiding in here the whole time. I don't know if I go for that or not. Possibly. We've had some experiences thinking that maybe it was a children's closet, but nobody knows for sure. Okay, so we'll go out this. The killer, if they hid in here, would had to have gotten this door open, and it's a wooden door. And I don't know how many people live in old houses, but it's got one of these old locks on it. A lot of times they stick, and I just don't know how he could have come out of here, and it squeaks, you notice, how that he would have been able to come out of there without being heard. But obviously he had to, unless there was more than one person, he had to have killed the adults first. There is no way that an adult's going to hear thumping and not get up to check the children. We don't know what order. They thought that the girls downstairs were killed first. I think the parents would have woken up. I also don't think anybody's going to make it up that step without them hearing them. So they had to have been lying in wait. So that's the basic tour. Hopefully we're going to find out some answers. Show you the pictures of the victims. How would you like to do that? I think they need to be remembered. Okay. I don't know if you can see in this book. This is Josiah. This is his wife Sarah. Catherine. And I think that's Herman. There's 2 other boys. Is that Herman? Anyway, that's the 4 oldest. There are some other pictures of the in here. We'll go ahead and show you. There's some theories about who the murders were. There's some good suspects. So we've got little Paul. He was 2. Boyd was the next victim. Catherine and Ina and Lena were her friends, and they were in her bedroom. She had just gotten big enough. Joe Moore, the father. Self-made man, hard-working man. And Mrs. Sarah Moore, who was actually running the program at the church. There's different suspects. The suspects, one of the suspects that I think that is very good, his name, and he was crazy, his name was Reverend Kelly, Reverend George Jacqueline Kelly. He was a small man, 5'2", but he had history. He was a traveling preacher, and he happened to attend the children's program that night. He sat in the back of the church. He watched Lena and Catherine and the other children participating in the program run by Miss Moore. He was certifiably insane and actually spent time in an insane asylum. He was a pervert, and his wife described to the detectives some of his perversions. He was attracted to young women. He had actually gotten in trouble by sending pornographic letters through the mail to a young lady. He had put in the newspaper advertisements for young secretaries, but they had to be able to type in the nude. He was sick, and he was a preacher. And he did confess to the crime afterwards. It's kind of hard to believe that a man that's only 5'2" and 120 pounds would have the strength to use an axe to give a blow to each person to kill them and not somebody wake up. My belief is that Lena was the focus of this crime. I believe he was involved somehow because too many things add up. The bacon on the floor was for sexual gratification. George spent time in Leavenworth when he got in trouble for writing women's letters. And the guards actually put in the newspaper that he stole food out of the kitchen of the prison and hoarded it in his cell, but he didn't use it to eat. That was their exact quote. That's a pretty good link to me. He'd also been caught peeping in windows, and there's a window right next to the bed. We're not sure how he came in. When he confessed, he said he walked right through about 1 o'clock in the morning. The window didn't look like, there was dust on the sill, and it didn't look like anybody came. And that was the only window that was unlocked, was in the Stillinger bedroom. So he very well may have walked right in the front door. But I don't understand how he could get up those steps and kill those adults. This is an unsolved true crime.
All right.
Okay.
So that'd be it right now, and we'll do our investigation tonight, and we'll have more footage for everybody to see. And probably get some more answers.
I hope so.
All right. So, everybody, goodbye. We'll see y'all later.